It's March 26th here up on the Prairie Orchard, and we're just rummaging through the vegetable garden and finding some leftovers from last year. One of the most obvious leftovers is our kale here, which is growing back as it typically does, as a perennial. And we'll just continue to harvest the leaves off of this through the summer so that we have some healthy food on our table. It's got some nice thick firm roots down here, a branch or a trunk to the plant. So these look sturdy and will hopefully last the year. We discovered a couple things over here that were sort of fun. We thought we had picked all our turnips last year, but looks like we missed a few. And now I don't know enough about turnips to tell if these sort of grew through the winter or we just missed this massive turnip. I suspect that there was some growing that took place in the fall and maybe even the spring. We're gonna pull these turnips out and see what they look like. So here they are out of the ground, and this one's pretty sizable. It's got a nice purple side here, but brown and really firm where it was touching the soil and underground. I suspect that if we were to cut into these, we would find a lot of woody root and not really anything edible. We'll take a look in our kitchen later on. It's been quite a warm winter here in southwest Michigan, and I think we're ahead of schedule in terms of our bud development. This is our wild goose plum, which I'm hoping actually has its first crop of plums this year. These are hopefully some flower buds that are going to open up in the next couple weeks. Typically the fruit trees around here are blooming in mid-April, and it's as I said, March 26th, so my guess is we're about a week and a half earlier than usual, though we won't know until the buds actually open. This is our white Doyen pear, and it looks like the buds are also a little bit on the early side. But as I said, time will tell. There's the row of pear trees going off in the distance. And this here is what I believe is a Cavio Blanc d'Hiver, at least based upon the apples that it produced last year. And I'm just checking out the buds that are on this particular tree. Up here at this end, it looks like this is turning into leaves, but I wonder if this particular bud is a flower bud. They certainly look different. If that's the case, then we actually have a fair number of flower buds on this tree this year. They're scattered on every single branch and actually are in larger numbers than really even those that appear to be the leaf buds. Anyway, Cavio Blanc d'Hiver. Spring is also a good time to check out for diseases on your trees. You're probably going to look at the bark more than anything else for areas of blistering of the bark and darkening of the bark. This tree here has some changes to its bark this year that I'm not quite certain of. It could simply be that this is the conversion of the young bark to older bark at the top of the trunk of this Albemarle pippin. I don't see any areas of frank darkening and large amounts of blistering down to the wood, so for now I'm going to leave it alone and see how it develops. Later on in the year you'll be looking at leaves for evidence of blackening of the leaves and blackening of the small twigs associated with those leaves. Those need to be cut out immediately as they probably represent blight. This here is a Sargent crabapple tree that I've been using as a grafting platform, and as you can see, it certainly hasn't survived the winter, but over the past year, piece by piece, even during the warmer months, it turned black and died, and I think that this particular tree was affected by the blight. I'm going to have to cut this out and make sure that we keep it far away from our orchard. This here is a branch from one of my cherry trees, and I don't think that this is a disease. I suspect that these areas here represent sort of weathered areas of deer trauma to my cherry tree. But I did not want to take any chances, even though the top looked very viable with some beautiful blossoms on their way. I took this out just to make sure that the rest of the tree was not threatened. Again, this looks more like deer trauma than chancre or one of the other diseases of these fruit trees, but I wanted to be sure, so I cut it out. This here's my Grimes golden apple tree. Planted it 2 springs ago. Unfortunately, this past winter, the deer netting fell a little low and the deer attacked this young tree. You can see a gouge that's been taken out of the side of the apple tree here. And then we have evidence of grazing here, here, up here. I'm hoping that because the trunk for the most part was left intact, including the top branches, that this tree will not only survive but hopefully thrive this spring, summer, and fall. So that's deer trauma to my small Grimes golden apple tree.